pra- practicing a simulcast here between our YouTube and Rumble channel. So hopefully this all goes well. Just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's out there preparing. And I thought it would be useful. Wanted to provide you one with some information of something that I just saw on the tweeters, and also point you in the direction of some resources. We're all getting together with friends and family this week, and we're going to be having conversations. And I thought I'd shoot you all to some resources. The first thing I wanted to review real quick is I saw this. Someone had posted this on Twitter, and it's an interview with Klaus Schwab. And I just wanted to play this real quick. Let's see here.
On the G20, you were there meeting some of the leaders as well. Professor Schwab, what do you make of the result? Finally, they put something as a statement, and it seems quite positive with all the voices included.
I think it's positive. It's already positive through the fact that everybody agreed about the statement, which we haven't had the last years. Now the base has been formed, but we have to go one step further. We have to have a strategic mood. We have to construct the world of tomorrow. It's a systemic transformation of the world.
Wow.
So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation
Build back better
period. I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think.
So over the last 40 years, Klaus respects China's achievements. Tell that to the Uyghurs and to all the Chinese citizens that are locked in high rises and on lockdowns. Klaus respects that. And if you even remember Donald Trump, when the whole Rona thing was blowing open, even he admired China and their track trace database and how they were going to look for patient zero and all of that stuff. So what I want to illustrate here is that this is a construct that's being developed and has been in the process of being developed since the 70s.
It's a role model for many countries, but
a role model for many countries. So, hey y'all, we have lots of probably people from all over the world listening. Who on the chat has a China to be their role model? Raise your hand. Class, anyone? Bueller?
I think also we should leave it to each country to make its own decision what system it wants to adopt. And I think we should be very careful.
So he wants to leave it to every country to what system they want to adopt, even though the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab has already stated that they penetrate all these cabinets, like all these crime ministers like Jesse Trombone, right? And like, even like all the weffers that are over here in our district of criminals, even the likes of Tulsi Gabbard and the patch guy, the globalist guy from Dan Crenshaw, all these weffers, they penetrate all these cabinets, but they're going to let the countries decide.
In imposing systems. But the Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries.
The Chinese model is an attractive. The Chinese model. So, is there anybody out there that thinks the Chinese model is attractive? Besides all the stack 'em high and deep that they've done and all the print and spend and all these making all these ghost cities and building infrastructure for the sake of infrastructure, and then literally trapping people inside skyscrapers and then commanding orders in autonomous drones. I mean, this is the model. The track trace, the social credit score, the cameras everywhere, the facial ID, and the the social credit score banking. This is the model according to Klaus and according to the powers that be, according to the G and the cops, the COP 27 and the G20s and all these guys. This is the model. But everybody gets to decide. But nobody gets to decide, but we're going to tell you, and we're going to foist this upon the globe. And we built the foundation. So here's my whole point with this, because this was all written about by Bill Clinton's mentor, Carol Quigley. And I want to point you to some resources here. Let me share screen again. I'm going to show you Joe Plummer. So this is at joeplummer.com. And Joe Plummer wrote a book, Tragedy and Hope, The Illusion of Justice and Freedom and Democracy, 101. And I'm going to listen to a brief clip here. Richard Grove is interviewing Joe Plummer, but the book, Tragedy and Hope, is, I think, maybe like 12 or 1,300 pages. And it's rather a large volume that's a little tedious. So Joe's kind of breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. But this was all written about, and this has been the stage that's been set by the likes of Heinz Kissinger and Zabinia Brzezinski, and these globalists and these internationalists since even when Heinz Kissinger was doing the international seminars back in the 70s. But the premise of the international seminars is exactly what we're experiencing now. So let's listen to this real quick. I should be able to zoom in.
All right. Well, I've been excited since you sent your book, Tragedy and Hope 101, The Illusion of Justice, Freedom, and Democracy. And you had sent it right after I took the studio apart I was going out to film on the road.
Full screen mode's unavailable.
So I'm glad to have this opportunity to actually discuss the book with you. I hope it's not too late to promote the book, because I was really happy when it came in the mail, because a lot of people find the 1,300-page version of Tragedy and Hope to be tedious, ominous. Like it's
intimidating, maybe.
A little intimidating, just a little intimidating. And I think you did a good job of pointing out that much of the Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley is put there not so much for the end result of the audience, but to get it through the censorship, with this other 5% of the information. And I think you did a good job of breaking it down such that the everyday, man or woman, who's out there working can understand this very crucial and important part of our history. So how did you come to write this book? Tell me some of the story about the process of understanding that there was this big history book and you thought that maybe something should be out there. And so you took it upon yourself to be creative.
Yeah, it's one of those things. People ask me, why did you want to write the book? And the answer is always, I didn't want to write the book. I don't know if you're familiar with the quote by Orwell. I'll probably butcher it here, but something along the lines of writing a book is a horrible, exhausting experience. One would never undertake such a thing. Oh no, what is it? It's like a long bout with a painful illness. And that you would never do it unless you were driven by, some demon that you can't control or understand. So like I said, I probably butchered it, but it's true. I was looking, I've been researching this for over a decade, this ruling elite and how they actually function, and becoming progressively more disturbed with the fact that the vast majority of the population is completely unaware of how the system actually operates. So you just start digging and digging and digging and unearthing more and more information. And a lot of it is buried in what is generally an inaccessible form. So we'll use Tragedy and Hope as a perfect example. For the vast majority of people, that might as well just be inaccessible, because they're not going to sit down and read, a 1,300-page, 500,000 plus word history book. They just don't have the time. They can hardly, read a full-length article, let alone, that multi-month project, which is, what it would be for most people. So it was just an issue of digging into it and trying to extract a coherent narrative that anybody could understand, and hopefully I succeeded. I did the best I could with it.
I think you did a great job. And before I get into the details of what you covered in the book, I just wanted to mention a couple of the things I noticed at the end of the book. where in reading through the recommended reading, you mentioned War is a Racket by Major General Smedley Butler, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto, and The Molecular Vision of Life by Lily Kay, in addition to like 25 other books. What do those books all have in common with the Tragedy and Hope 101, your publication?
Well, they all provide a little bit more insight into how the system actually operates. So obviously, Smedley Butler is addressing the military instrument and how it's used to maintain the elite's control.
Sorry, y'all. I had my mic muted, but what I was saying is, Richard just read off a good list of books. So for people that are looking for different things to read, other than Tragedy and Hope, for something rather large, but you can check out Joe Plummer's website. He's got different audios on here covering the book and just the synopsis of it. But those are some other really good reading materials for y'all.
What were the other ones you mentioned? Dumbing Us Down, obviously, John Taylor Gatto would be the education system. Molecular Vision of Life was another one that you mentioned. That's even scarier. That's eugenics 2.0. Okay, all of this is about controlling human beings. That's the whole point of the entire system. And with the Molecular Vision of Life, you're actually getting into the genetic approach to controlling people on a molecular level. What can we do to get into the epigenetic expression of individuals and manipulate their behavior? You know, manipulate their behavior, manipulate their beliefs, manipulate their temperament, and control them. So all of these books, depending on, you know, what you might be interested in, all provide additional insight into the system itself and really the mindset of the people who control it.
Who do you think your potential audience is? Who's this written towards? Who's it written, you know, to enlighten? Who can pick it up and find it useful?
I think anybody who wants to pick it up and read it will find it useful. And if this doesn't convince you that the political system is all theater, then I don't know that there's really anything. Because that's the thing, you know, this is the culmination of like over a decade's worth of research. So there's, I don't even want to guess how many hundreds of books and all of this other stuff. And I eventually settled on this one as being, well, not my book, but Tragedy and Hope, the Anglo-American Establishment, even with the Evolution of Civilizations, and a few others that I sprinkled in there, as providing the most reputable sources to establish this concept of what, you know, where Quigley admits in Tragedy and Hope that the expert will replace the democratic voter in the 20th century. Well, guess what? We're out of the 20th century, and he wrote that back in the 60s. So this was the goal.
That's a technocracy, y'all. That's, you know, that's the technocracy, that the technocrat, the scientism, and the scientist and the expert would, and you know, that's what our collegiate government propaganda collegiate system, get a degree in this specified field and drill down, specify, and the next thing you know, you have a worthless degree that's not worth anything because you're so specific, and you know, you have a master's in Eastern didactic poetry or something like that.
That they were creating instruments to do this, to control all habitable portions of the world. And, you know, it's if this doesn't convince you, then you probably don't want to be convinced. And it isn't going to require a tremendous amount of time and effort for you to get through this information. I mean, the book's probably, if you're a slow reader, it might take you 7 hours to get through it, you know? Probably average reader's 5. So it's for anybody who really isn't afraid to face a really ugly truth.
Well, and I noticed that you included more than just tragedy and hope. You included references from Quigley's other books. Most importantly, I think Anglo-American Establishment, because many people say, "Well, tragedy and hope, it doesn't have any footnotes and references." And what most people don't understand is he had access to the records, and then in Anglo-American Establishment, he went in and told you who those people were, where those references are, how to, it's so. But Anglo-American Establishment doesn't really mean a whole lot to a lot of people until they read Tragedy and Hope, and then they're like, okay, what's the next step? And I think Quigley did a good job of laying that out in a much more shorter, condensed, dense book. Like there's a lot in there, but
I think another really good thing to point out is a lot of people want to demonize certain people groups. Think like the Kanye West saga, and it is interesting that you can't exactly speak of these people without it creating censorship and without you getting vaporized and different things. We'll just call them Talmud teachers or whatever. But I think once you see and understand the Anglo-American establishment and see where they're rooted from and through, it kind of puts everything in more perspective. It's certainly not as simple and easy to just blame one ethnicity group, which is foolish and just kind of a little bit ridiculous. It's all shapes, sizes, and colors.
It needs Tragedy and Hope, the big book, to unpack it. And before you can appreciate either of those books, you've got yours, which I consider a guidebook to this treasure that's right in front of us. But a lot of people haven't taken the time to read because it's never been advertised to us.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people I think are just intimidated. They'd be intimidated by the tone, the presentation, the length.
I'm not saying that Kanye wasn't right because there was a lot of truth in what he said, but there's also a lot of layers to that. There's an enormous amount of MK Ultra mind control going on and psychotropics and everything else. So, you have to take all of that into consideration, and all these, Disney mind control people that when they break programming, and they do speak a lot of truth, but you have to understand the didactic narrative that's always being represented, just like the protocols of Zion and all that stuff. You can't. They always want to create this this dialectic.
All of it. It's not written for the layman. It just isn't, and that's not to say anything about laymen that's negative. They're just not. If you never tied your shoes before, you're not going to be comfortable tying your shoes. Okay, so just like drop this 5-pound book on someone's desk and say, read this and you'll understand everything. It's just like, come on, man, it's too much. So with this, they get the what I felt, to the best of my ability. You can't really condense 1,300 pages into just a couple hundred pages, but to the best of my ability, they will get the most important elements of the mindset and the procedures that these people use to further secure and expand their control.
All right, so so check out joeplummer.com. PLUMMER.com. I didn't put it in the show notes. I forgot to drop that in there. joeplummer.com. You can check out his book. You can see all his videos and interviews there. But it's a lot of really great information and stuff. And I think Tragedy and Hope is kind of like a fundamental foundational thing of where we are as a global society and as global citizens of the world. Now that we have this great foundation and we just need China, we just all need to be like China. And what's really wild is you have somebody like Klaus saying that how much he admires them, and then you had somebody like Donald Trump who did lock down America, right? He did lock us down and he whooped speed and it was tremendous, right? And China is bad and it's China and it's bad. Well, except when they track trace and, do all that social credit and track and trace everybody. That stuff's really good. We need to figure out how they do that. And we need to try to implement that to find patient zero. But other than that, China bad. It's all the dialectic, and it's all an incredibly fake dialectic. And there is not a political solution. That's why we always talk about parallel economies, parallel society, parallel systems of community, and we have to break it down onto a communal level within our community, helping each other, loving our neighbor, and sharing resources and sharing ideas and being able to speak openly with each other outside of the right-left paradigm. Because the reason that we can't communicate a lot of these ideas is it's because, well, that's my team, and you can't say anything about my team because it's just like, when you talk bad about my brother, like I can talk bad about my brother, but if you talk bad about my brother, I'm going to punch you in the face. So, it's the same thing. And that's why they create these dialectics. And we need to get outside of these dialectic paradigms, because the system, this democratic system, has been completely manipulated and deconstructed and reconstructed into a banana republic. So, and in a banana republic and in a kangaroo court, there is no, we're watching these kangaroo courts and we're watching all this banana republic and we're watching Sleepy Joe, who doesn't even have his faculties, and he's supposedly toting the nuclear football. And how come he hasn't accidentally, fell over and hit the button and blown us all up? They said that about Ronnie when they were cracking on old Holly Weird Ronnie. And he had dementia and was carrying the football and it was dangerous. And now we got Sleepy Joe. I mean, come here, break. But it is all political theater. It's all dog and pony show. And what they're showing us now with guys like Biden and Fetterman is they're injecting literally mentally gone people that do not have faculties, and they're putting them in office, and they're saying, see, look, do you see, everybody always said they were political puppets, right? And they had handlers and they were puppets. But here we're literally watching people that do not have their faculties, and they're performing their duties as public, duly elected public servants, right? And meanwhile, back at the ranch, and check out our merch shop, Biden Fetterman 2024. It's a no-brainer, but shameless T-shirt plug. But Ray Epps for president. Yeah, if you want a good CIA plant for president, vote for Ray Epps. But just wanted to throw this out there as you're going to be hanging around with your friends and family this Thanksgiving season. We're looking forward to it. We have lots of. We're getting together with friends, not tomorrow, but on Friday. So we're really looking forward to that. But I just wanted to pop on here. I saw that Schwab tweet, and I always try to, if you put people in contact with the source materials, and you can see the longevity of this plan and how it was fundamentally put in place in the 60s and 70s, all this stuff, the Club of Rome and all this weather stuff and global warming and all this technocracy and all this eugenics, it all started around the exact same time, using all the exact same methods, all this Fabian socialists, right? And how they said that they were going to control people with medication and reward and bread and circuses, and you got your sports, you got your sports and your Holly Weird and all the people that run the sports and the Holly Weird, right? And the Talmud teachers and all that stuff. And they're all interconnected in 40 different ways. And it's, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for all of it. And speaking of bacon, I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving now. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all have a great weekend, and we may or may not be popping on and off here. And we appreciate all the orders. We've been packing up a lot of orders, and appreciate all the got some belt orders, T-shirt orders, lots of coffee orders going out. And we appreciate all y'all. Thanks y'all for hanging out with us. And I'm hoping that this multi-stream happened properly. I love this technology. Very interesting story is I went to set up the live stream, and our Rumble channel was nuked. It didn't exist. And I'm like, dude, this is so weird. So like I go on Rumble because I'm like trying to set up the live stream. I go on Rumble and I'm like, our channel is completely gone. And thankfully, thank the Lord, I have a connection directly at Rumble. And I emailed this guy and I'm like, our channel is totally nuked. Like it's disappeared. Like none of our videos exist and our channel doesn't exist. And he was like, oops, sorry about that. Yeah, there was some kind of spam thing, but I turned it back on. But yeah, our channel. So that's what's really scary about all this stuff, man. It's like, I mean, supposedly our Rumble channel got inadvertently nuked, like for no reason. So subscribe to all of our channels. Subscribe to our email list on our website. We're trying to fight the censorship, y'all. And just work through it. But interesting stuff, interesting times, and we love and appreciate you all. Hope you all have a great day, and be thankful. And be thankful to the Lord God of heaven, creator, who has blessed us richly with all things. And be thankful. You know, you cannot appreciate life and what we do have if we're not thankful. Lots of weird, crazy stuff's going on, and you know, and it's good to be aware and in the know, so that you're not just blindly like slobbering and you're in the feed line to eat the soy based What's-a-Burger. But you know, you got to be thankful. Be thankful for what you do have and what you do know, and be thankful that you are awake and aware of what's going on, and you're not some mindless zombie that's just listening to the talking heads and like drinking the bread and circuses and going through life. And you know, the next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, wow, well, how did this happen? You know. But all right, y'all, have a